Good morning, everyone, and welcome to yet another installment of my ongoing series, Propped Up. This week, I got just a bauble, a trinket, a, a ring, a least of rings, just a trifle that I fancy. And for those of you who've actually read the book, you know what I'm talking about. Ba-da-da-ba! One ring to rule them all. One ring to find them all. One ring to, one ring, one ring to something them all and bring them all in the darkness and bind them. In the realm of Mordor, where shadows lie. Yes, we have the One Ring from Lord of the Rings. This is gold-plated titanium, 14 carats, and it was only about $30. I got this a couple years back. I don't know if the prices have risen at all, but that's not bad. And I actually think that titanium is a very good. That's something that Sauron probably would make his ring out of, given that it literally would withstand, the fires of the hottest dwarf furnaces and could only be melted in, the magma of Mount Doom. I mean, it's still in the volcano. Is it still magma if it's in the volcano? I know it's lava when it's outside the volcano, but that is still exposed to the air, given, there's tunnels and stuff in there. Anyway, that's beside the point. Uh, this is the One Ring. Inscribed inside and out with the elvish runes. Do I dare? Must be broken. Or maybe I'm like Tom Bombadil. When I'm in my own realm, I am my own master. So, I suppose I should first start off with, you know, my history with Lord of the Rings. My dad is a huge Lord of the Rings fan. When he first described the books to me when I was a wee little lad, I was intrigued by them, but this was 1999 ish me, so I was probably more into Pokemon and Batman and stuff like that. But he went to take us to see the film after he and Mom saw it over Christmas, and it scared me a little bit. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That part where Bilbo reaches for the ring, Frodo pulls back, and then he's like, and it's like, ugh. It's not the kind of thing that, let's see, 99, I would have been probably first grade. It's not the thing first grade me wants to see. And then afterward, we went to Burger King and got the Happy Meals or the Mighty Kids meal. No, it was Kids Club meals that had, and there were these like light up figures where you put the figure on their little pedestal and it lights up. I believe the ones we got from that line were Legolas, Saruman, and Samwise. Which, Samwise is a character that only adults appreciate. Kids don't want Samwise. I really like the Saruman figure I had. And, I try to think, like, there's, like, for the hero characters, Legolas, obviously, and Strider, I think, are the two most, those are the two characters that young boys are going to really gravitate toward. Although, weirdly, I do like old wizardy characters, so I really like Gandalf, I really like Saruman. Was not a huge fan of Radagast, but my opinions of the Hobbit films are the Rankin Bass film was better. Let's leave it at that. But no, Lord of the Rings holds such an interesting place because, like, Tolkien codified so much of the fantasy genre totally incidentally. Inventing your own language, having this big open world, and hundreds of years, thousands of years of history. Tolkien didn't do that because he thought that's how fantasy should be written. Tolkien did that because he was a nerd. A massive nerd who loved maps, who loved language. The dude was a English professor, He was fascinated by all the dumb sounding words that he ran into in his village. Like, oh, well, Wookiee's foot is that way, and, Hampton and the Beans is that way, etc., etc. There is actually like a town in England named like Wookie's Hole or something, and they do have an ongoing legal battle or legal dispute with Star Wars over the name. Allegedly, that's what I heard. I haven't really looked into it too much. It's something I heard in a video. Anyway, back to Lord of the Rings. So Tolkien like did all this stuff not because he wanted to, or not because he had to, but because he wanted to. And that's, I think, a problem that a lot of people have with fantasy nowadays is they feel like you have to, you have to do this, you have to make your own language, like James Cameron making Na'vi, which is such a dumb language, which I hate Avatar too. Sorry. Or Bethesda making dragon language, etc., etc. But you don't need to do that. You don't need to do any of that. Fantasy is the providence of imagination. Just do what your imagination tells you. And like for me, a lot of my writing is based around superheroes and junk like that, but that's just me. I love superheroes. I love the really dumb stuff. I like when magic and science and the paranormal and religion all coincide each other. Yeah, I like the fact that Thor and Wonder Woman can meet and be like, "Oh, hey, you're one of Zeus's kids, or not Zeus's kid, but you're one of the Amazons. Oh, you're one of the Asgardians." Oh my god, I can't believe I accidentally called her Zeus's kid. She is not Zeus's kid. She was made from clay. Sorry. Anyway. Lord of the Rings. We were talking about Lord of the Rings. And so let's see. I think like why we love Lord of the Rings so much is that it's like the film anyway. Like how it became such a part of the zeitgeist is because it feels real. You know what I mean? Like most like yeah, there's a lot of CG in the movies, but it's understated so that when it shows up, you really feel it. You realize you're in another world. Uh, because like I think the Balrog is the only like really big CG monster fight. Well, no, there's also the troll, but like Moria in general is a lot more surreal and fantastical than what we see up to this point. Because like the Ring Race, who are some of my favorite villains ever put to film, like the Ring Race in the Peter Jackson films are so good. Like they outshine the original Ring Race in the book. Um, in the book, the Ring Race are a lot more slinky and sneaky. In the movie, they're just like riding around, like slashing dudes and all this other stuff. But then that's kind of counteracted by the fact that they look so frail and mummified in their spirit forms. Whereas in the book, their spirit forms are more kingly and gray. They don't look like shriveled prunes. They look like great lords draped in, silver fabrics who are beyond death. Um, and but yeah, and also I love like kind of the tall, imposing bad guy who's all in black and stuff. Like I love Darth Vader, I love Batman, I love the Ring Wraiths. I have a type of character I gravitate toward. If they're big, covered in dark uh, dark materials, and tend to occupy the shadows a lot, then they're probably cool to me. Remember what I said in the Star Wars video. I would say a reformed edgelord, but I still have a fondness for the aesthetic. It's also why Daedric armor is my favorite armor in Skyrim. Even though Dragonbone protects better, and so does Stalrim, I think, but whatever. Daedric's cooler. Lord of the Rings. I am going to every other fantasy thing in the book. Speaking of, fun fact for you. Akatosh, the lead deity in Elder Scrolls, is actually a reference to one of the playtesters for Elder Scrolls Arena. And his username in the forums was AKA the old Smog himself, AKA TOSH, Akatosh. And that's also why he's a dragon, because Smog. Smaug. I don't know. Uh, but like I was saying with the realness of it, I think one of the parts that really sticks out to me is very specifically the scene where they forge the orc swords, because they actually forge them on camera. This isn't some plastic prop. This is real metal that they show you the process of them turning into a weapon. And like obviously they're blunted, they're not going to cleave anyone in two, but that's the kind of like attention to detail Peter Jackson gave to the first three films. Arguably the most attention he's paid to anything. And also, he is a huge nerd, and like all of us, but he's a huge horror nerd, especially and you can kind of tell that because he directed Brain Dead and Meet the Feebles and the Frighteners, stuff like that. So he makes Lord of the Rings, and he gets the kid from the faculty to be the main character. He gets the Nazi from Apt Pupil to be Gandalf. He gets the Dracula, the Hammer Dracula to be Saruman. He gets, oh lord, Viggo Mortensen played the devil in a horror movie once. Or like a supernatural movie anyway, where it was dark fantasy adjacent, but basically he was kind of more of the, oh, I'm so much better than humans idea. Anyway, but you see where I'm going with this. Like, he cast the film with horror actors, and then he even got the guy who scored Silence of the Lambs to do the score for it, and you cannot tell, except I would argue during the Ring theme, that string motif that accompanies the Ring kind of does sound a little bit like something from the original Silence of the Lambs movie with Anthony Hopkins. But I suppose I should finish with... I don't want this video to drag on too long now. I gotta upload it. But I should finish with why I love this piece. Or why I gravitate toward it. The Ring is power. It is absolute power. It is a weapon. It is a tool of evil. And I like villains. This is the ultimate corruptor. And also, it is a symbol of corruption. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is absolute power. And they explain it differently in the books, but the implication I always got was that it gives each person a measure of power according to them. That is why Smeagol and the hobbits, Frodo and Sam, disappear when they use the ring. Versus if Gandalf wore it, it would accentuate his magic. If Strider would wear it, it would accentuate his swordsmanship and bowmanship, or his tracking ability. It it's basically a power up, but it also like makes you addicted to it. That's just my read, though. Certain Tolkien scholars say that the reason why people turn invisible when they put the ring on is actually because they're entering the spirit world. But the reason that Sauron doesn't disappear when he puts the ring on is because he exists in the physical world and the spirit world simultaneously, due to him being, he's the same angel race as Gandalf. There's a lot of stuff about Lord of the Rings. Again, Tolkien is a huge nerd. God, that reminds me, I should tell y'all. Tolkien also hates Shakespeare, specifically Macbeth, and you can tell because he basically upstaged Macbeth in two parts of his book. One, the Siege of Isengard. The forest coming to destroy a castle. That's literally from Macbeth, when a bunch of people used tree branches to hide themselves, and it looked to Macbeth as if the forest were advancing upon him. Second, no man of woman born can kill me. That's the line that the three witches give to Macbeth, and that is also the line that is given to the Witch King. Macbeth is killed by a dude who got C-sectioned. The Witch King is killed by Eowyn and Mary, because one is a woman, thus not a man. The other is a hobbit, thus not a man, thus not a human man. But I would argue that it was more Eowyn. Like, she's the, Mary wounded him, but he would have just been wounded. Eowyn had to strike the killing blow. It was a team effort between two really cool characters who you don't think are cool when you're a kid and kind of stupid, but are actually two of the best characters in the whole franchise when you're an adult. Anyway. But yeah, so the ring is cool. It represents kind of that idea of giving in to your baser instincts. It's the Jekyll and Hyde potion. It's the haunted mask. It's Jim Carrey's The Mask, but so much simpler than those, in that it's just power. It is pure, unadulterated power. But yeah, and there's so much of Tolkien's mythology that actually stems from like European mythology. I believe it's basically like Arthurian myth plus a little Norse mythology plus a little Christian theology. Like the angels. You have the angels. You have the archangels. You have all this other stuff. Morgoth is Satan. Eru Iluvatar is God, etc., etc. But it's it's a good show. I like it. The movies are good. I think I think the thing I want you to walk away with from this is the first three movies are really good. Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King. Although I personally gravitate toward Fellowship the most because that's the least amount of CG, and also it feels the most grounded. Like you're on the ground with the hobbits, doing all this stuff. I'm not into the battles too much. To me, the Battle of Pelennor Fields wasn't that impressive. The Battle of the Battle of Hammer, the Battle of Helm's Deep wasn't that impressive. The only part I really liked of either battle was Eowyn killing the Witch King. I am no man. Also, the part where the ghosts flood the battlefield. That's just funny. That's just funny to have an army of the dead on your side. For like stuff centered around Lord of the Rings, if you're more interested in it, there is a GameCube port of The Hobbit that came out around the time of the first films. It's pretty good. There's a clone of there's There's a bunch of stuff you can get into. I actually would really suggest the audiobooks. I believe Robert Ingles read the ones that I listened to, and then you also have a really good rendition of The Hobbit read by Andy Serkis, who does a fantastic job of doing Bilbo and Thorin, and obviously Smeagol, or Gollum. Does that make this a birthday present to myself? It's my birthday present. I can't do Gollum. How's that? Anyway, I think that's going to be it for me today. I've prattled on long enough for you. Y'all have a good one. This is Royce Miller, signing off.